And we are live. What's up, guys? I'm super excited to share with you and introduce you to one of my dear friends. We're talking about something really, really important today, and it has to do with going green, going imperfectly green, because I have been in the process of talking about going green for a decade, but I haven't yet done it. And so I always feel very much ashamed to talk about this, but my girl here, Janna Hoackenjos, she is an expert on this subject. I have met her and worked with her as my book editor, and we have become friends. And she's very inspiring to me of how she has committed. I see her go through her pregnancy and her child's first year of life, and it was really inspiring to me to see how every little choice she made throughout that time in her life was all surrounded by this deep desire to respect the planet and be responsible and do all that. So, Janna, tell us everything about like who you are and why you're here today and what brings you here today and what gets you excited to speak about this subject. Because for you, you told me this has been like a long time in the making, right? This is not like it's a new project, but it's not a new project.
Um, yes, a long time in the making is the truth. I My passion for going green. There's so many things you can call it, right? You can call it sustainability, a regenerative lifestyle, saving the planet, climate change, activism, all kinds of things. And I think that in and of itself makes makes it feel like, where do I start? Even when I
Mhm.
think about how can I talk about this, I'm like, what words am I supposed to be using again? What reaches who? And it just gets very muddled. And then you just want to be like, never mind. I'm just going to do my thing. My thing has always been caring about the planet. So the reason I bring that up is the truth is, and why I'm all for, we're calling it going green or going imperfectly green, as we'll explain in a little, is I love the planet. I love nature. I love the just the fact that we get to be human beings that exist in nature with each other, and we have these harmonious relationships, and there's so much beauty in it, and there's so much connection. And when I was a little kid, I was always out in nature, want people to be happy, harmony. Like harmony is a big thing, and a harmony among species, not just within a species. Like humans can all like each other. Even that's questionable these days. But like, how do we exist in this love and this harmony? And my first true, I would say, experience of seeing a disharmony or a dis-ease was the 1989 Exxon Valdez oil spill off the coast of
Mhm.
Alaska. And I was a little kid. I was 8, and I was just like floored. Like seeing the animals die, seeing people not care that the animals were dying, seeing this sludge and this oil that we thought we needed to make our lives happen, like fossil fuels, and to give up, but at the expense of so much, at the expense of communities, marine, human, uh, birds, animals, you name it. And I became so curious about an interaction in the world, and that has really sort of driven my want to live in harmony with the planet. But since there's such a case for the disharmony we're all experiencing, and we're seeing it in communities of people, not just communities in nature, not just the trees. We're having people who live on coastlines getting the brunt of the way some of us are living, because they're not living. They're having a hard time as a result of things that other people are doing. And just seeing those interactions play out through the years, I've always realized that we have a responsibility, and it's not meant to be heavy. It's meant to be part of our being, to care about all that surrounds us, the people that surround
Mhm.
us, nature, the animals. And you don't necessarily have to know how much you affect. It's like that trust of life. Like we're all here together. So the things that I do matter in ways I can't see. and the things
Mhm.
that I don't do matter in ways that I can't see. And that sort of mentality of being a small part of this great big beautiful web of all forms of life has always kept me ever since I was a little kid and into, you know, high school and college, and now my life now is just like my little part matters so much. And now we're seeing the shifts of a lot of little parts leading us in the wrong direction. So if it's the little parts that led us in the wrong direction, it's the little parts that are going to lead us back in the right direction. Or I don't
Mhm.
really like to go backwards in terms of fixing something. We just get to move forward in a new and better way together. Um,
So I hear you, and it's just like that is the one thing that I've been struggling with particularly is that I've never been it just sounds horrible, but I've never been a massive nature girl. I've been a city girl. Like my idea of what I like about nature is like Central Park because I could see the buildings around it. And very, very recently, actually, I was doing some chakra work, and it came out for me that which I always thought that my lower chakra were very, very solid, were my strongest chakra, my solar plexus and my sacral chakra and my root chakra. And instead, I was doing this meditation, right? This meditation, sacral chakra balancing meditation. And the meditation was calling for me being in the water, in this alone in the ocean. And I felt terrified, right? Because I'm like, can you just move me in the jacuzzi? Halfway in the forest where I could still see a spot. You know what I mean? It's like for me, like the idea of being in nature, alone in nature, away completely from what I have learned to identify as safe. Like nature will swallow me alive. In a way, it's my connection with the feminine, right? With my own mother and the feminine. Like I'm not trusting that. So I saw all that, experienced all that. And when I was hearing people growing up, and I was hearing people speaking the way you're speaking with that much passion about the planet, and that much passion about nature, and that I love the animals, and I'm like, great. I love my pet too, but and I like the animals, but I'm like, okay, so for me to be green, I need to have that equal passion. I need to share um, that priority in my life rather than asking myself, hey, why is it not a priority for you, right? It's not that taking certain choices or not wanting to be green means having to renounce to your comfort or what you love or what you like. And I lived it very much like I'm all in or all out in things. So if I cannot go out camping and being like, oh, I love being in the wild, then there's no sense for me or no authenticity in me trying to even make conscious choices other than having a reusable Starbucks cup or bringing my own bag to the grocery shop, which I forget 9 out of 10 times and end up buying the bag. So I'm totally being like honest here, right? So that's what's been
this,
holding me back.
this is a, a wonderful part of this conversation. And I think that's what we have the opportunity to do now more of, is just have conversations about this, because that's the thing. Like we can talk about the planet and it feels so separate, because if you're not a nature girl and if you don't want to go dive in the ocean by yourself with the sea anemones and do whatever, how do you feel the need to make changes? For the record, I love how you describe being in the ocean, and I'm like already sitting here like, oh my god, I can't wait. I just want to dive in the ocean by myself.
No, I
But
was terrified. I was like petrified. Like
right,
my mind bleeding started going
because
very, very fast.
nature is a powerful force, and I'm all about nature in the ways that I know that I am, but I'm still not somebody who goes camping every weekend. That's not how it expresses ourselves. So a lot of it, a lot of
I
people feel
understand. You see, my girls understand me. They're like scared like me.
so that's the thing, that you sort of change what you're saving. If we're saving something or we're improving something, it's
Mhm,
life. It is not just nature. Nature's our home. Nature out, like the buildings are on the ground on the earth. Like the
mhm,
water we drink comes from our oceans and our rivers. The sun in the sky has to go through a layer in the ozone that layer protects us. So there's all these different elements that you see where we interact with nature without having to be nature people. And there's, you can educate yourself around that, but if that's not your jam, that's not what you do. So what you kind of figure out is, what is it that you're passionate about? Because if you figure out what you're passionate, and I'm not talking about when it comes to saving the planet. I'm just like, what is your passion? Is your passion for people to feel better? Is your passion underserved communities? Is your passion mental health? Is your passion the planet? Is your passion nature? Is your passion animals? Is it all these different things? Because I think that you will find, if you allow for it, that passion becomes a through way that will end up connecting you to starting to want to live in a more sustainable way. Because the sustainability, the going green, the going imperfectly green, isn't only for the planet, it is for the people. And that, this past year, has been my most incredible, insightful lesson or learning. Because up until, I would say, almost this year, I was all about like, I love nature, I want to save it. And
Mhm.
I felt distance from I felt angry at the people, like literally angry at all the humans because they're all causing chaos and we won't have a home to live. But I actually listened to a podcast, and I'm happy to share that link later on, that specifically illuminated how people are a part of this, how caring about the people helps you care about the planet. And I was
Mhm.
like, whoa, we're having the wrong conversations. Like, we're talking only about nature, but there are communities of people who are not healthy and don't have
Mhm.
access to resources because of these things. So if you want someone to have, you know, lungs that breathe well for them, you're still in this same fight as much as you are if you want to swim in the ocean by yourself with the beautiful coral. And
Mhm.
that's the curiosity that I invite all of us to have, is like, where does your passion for healing lie? Where does your passion for living lie? If you open that up, like if you look beyond only the horizon that you can see, you can start to see how it's all connected to the home that we share. It's literally the home that we share. So if you never want to go on a hike, or you never want to dive off a boat with some sharks, there's still a responsibility you have as to being a being sharing an earth with other beings.
Yeah.
And
No, I relate to that. I could feel that. There's something that to me happened this year in relation to excess. I love luxuries. I promote the full experience of luxury and embracing of your desire. I'm all for that. But there is something that this year I'm starting to get really fed up with, this message of this more than enough. Everybody needs to have more than enough, more than enough, more than enough. And there's this push to that. And I think in a way it takes away from the divine of the luxury. Like for me, I love the luxuries in life because it makes me feel nurtured, it makes me feel like embraced, it makes me feel fully expressed in the many things that I love. But the energy of you need more than enough, or let's all manifest more than enough, and all that junk is just something that I really do not resonate with. And I began to feel iffy to me, like, oh, like, what do you
so
mean? Why would you want that? Like, I want to have plenty of beautiful things, but not the idea of more than enough beautiful thing. Why? Because I would throw them away. What's the point? You know?
well, what speaking of is 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 the is how our society is fueled, right? We are, for the most part, and I'm not speaking for everyone on the earth, obviously, but capitalism, buy things you need. What we
Yeah.
need has gotten a little bit swayed towards what people need to sell. Fair enough, right? We make products and services and we do all that, but what has happened is things have not just your plastic cup, but everything from your jeans um, to aspects of healthcare are disposable. They're created so that you have to buy another and you have to buy another and you have to buy another. So there's that on any playing field. And then in luxury, the new thing is what's the best, what's the best, what's the best. So it's like an iPhone, for example. When you get rid of your iPhone, it's waste. It
Yeah.
doesn't disappear. But yet the same people that are saying, "Oh, we're a really great company," are pushing you to get the next iPhone. When do you need it? So it's that, how do we shift what we need? But the thing I want to say about luxury and sustainable, eco-friendly goods, they are the most luxurious. Those are the companies that care about quality of product. They care about how it's made, how well it's made. They care about all the fine details. Um, I think, and this is just me personally, but shifting from the luxurious lifestyle to an eco-friendly lifestyle, for so long it's gotten a bad rap of being crunchy and granola
Mhm.
and like thrifty. It's not
Yeah,
the
that's what I
case.
thought of it myself.
Mm-mm.
But I know I agree
No.
with you. I think that it's shifting now. It's shifting because
Yeah, and that's a
yeah.
huge thing that you can do too, is that shifts your dollar. And if your dollar shifts to green, then companies are going to be forced to shift to green. I mean that those companies are going to have to start to pay attention to where their resources come from, how they expend energy. So is it fair trade? Is it carbon free? And everyone has the means to do it, but not necessarily the motivation. The customer is the motivation. So just being a human being who buys things, you can already motivate things in a huge way. Like, for example, these jeans, which I particularly love, they're a brand called Boyish. They're made out of LA. They're not cheap. They're not, overkill, but they're completely sustainable, all eco-friendly. And I got a pair, and I think I walked around the house like and said out loud like 7 times to my husband, oh my God, why have I not bought jeans like this forever? Like, because what I'm
Mhm.
trying to do personally is make shifts when I need to purchase something. I want it to feel good. I want it to look good. And I want it to
Mhm.
do good. And I want it to be good. And just in doing that, you're doing something green. And that's
Yeah, I think
why
what I
I
like
feel
about it is shifting the perspective into making the whole green subject more about a consciousness subject in meaning of like
100%. If
so it's
you
not green is just an aspect, but using common sense to support brands and companies that align with our beliefs. That once we wear them, we don't just love to wear them because you say, "Oh, this looks so beautiful. I love the way it feels," but also because you love the way it's made and who made it and what they stand for and what do they believe in, and you're happy to support those employees and you're happy to support that, it's American made or whatever it is you believe in, right? So that total alignment of things. So I really love that. I personally um, I'm all up to like support certain brands that favor a more expensive production over having the cheapest goods done, like made somewhere in the third world country through underpaid children sewing them. For sure for that. That is something that it will be much easier for me to relate than a lot of the other things that, as you said, to me, that always felt like a little hippie, you know, not
right.
not coming from a judgment place, coming from a place like, hey, I respect what you're doing, just do not relate, and you said this conversation you're having, shifting it into like, oh, make choices based out of consciousness, not out of like save the trees. Not that I don't
And I
have anything against the trees, but it makes it much easier for me to feel participant and personally connected to the cause.
well, and it's pretty simple. It's like, just because someone tells you your favorite color should be blue, there's nothing in your power that you can keep doing to see blue as your favorite color. Like,
Yeah.
we get stuck. So if you get stuck trying to go through nature, if you love nature and you get stuck trying to go through voting and policy, there's so many places we can get stuck, but this is so expansive that it allows everyone to create a shift. in any way that works for them. Just using my husband and I, for example, we come to this from completely different places, but where we intersect creates a really strong green lifestyle. Um, he, I mean, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't compost, we wouldn't have a worm bin, we wouldn't do like crunchy outside garden things, which he's the least crunchy person, which is just, it's so funny how like, but that's his thing. He loves plants and soil and like all the magic in that. Like I literally had to, we're moving and I had to haul things of soil, like giant bins, because the soil was so good. We're going to take it where we're going. But that's like his passion. And he just ran with it. And from that, we have an amazing, actually, we're leaving a new family with an amazing garden, but we have all these things. And I'm a product person. I'm a lower your consumption person. So to coming together, we kind of multiply sort of our through lines of getting to this. But like you said, it's a shift in consciousness. It's not a shift in doing, it's a shift in being. And
Mhm.
when we can, I think, and I'm a yoga teacher and, you know, studying ancient texts and studying chakra energy, like all these things, we are craving connection. Human beings want connection. And, and what we've done in the last many decades is disconnect from each other,
Yeah.
from the things we bring in our lives, from nature, from past generations, from future generations. And when you start to seek out ways you want to connect and you want to feel connected, even if it's buying the fair trade purse from the, you know, the family or the group of women that make this their livelihood in another country, that's a new connection. That's a connection
Mhm.
versus just because you like it and it's pretty. So it's the question you might ask yourself is, how do I want to feel more connected to my environment? Your environment being the people and the places around you.
Yeah, it feels like how can we bring more meaning into the choices that we make?
Mhm.
Because I think if there's anything that we have learned this year, when we lost our ability to connect in so many ways, like I've been feeling imprisoned. I haven't been able to come back to the States in since March 5th. For me, it's like a joke. I keep waking up sometimes looking around and I'd be like looking at my husband and going, do you know I haven't been back in the States since March 5th? It's like, yeah, you said that like 20 minutes ago. Like, it's been months now. Stop. I'm like, no, because I cannot accept it, right? But I've lost connection, like teaching. I've lost the connection of hugging my clients, of hosting live retreats, of doing all these things that made me feel one with people. And as much as I'm thankful and grateful for the internet and what it's allowing us to do, including sharing this message right now, you know, I feel like the real connection is lost in a massive way. And now we need it more than ever, more than ever. So how can we find it? How can we bring that meaning into the little choices we make? And what I love about what I've learned so far, and the subject, the shape this interview is taking, is that I always thought of green as I expected you to tell me, okay, Raquel, these are things you can do to clean up your house, you know, which I can find in many blogs. But the idea that you're bringing in an element of shifting the way we think about it into shifting in elevating more consciousness, into bringing more meaning, into feeling good and finding what we're personally passionate about and connected with, and using that as, you know, this element, this common element we all have together. I feel it makes it so much easier for me and for people like me and Lucy, who was watching us before, who felt like, oh my God, I've always felt that way as well. So really, thank you about that, because it's a really big, important shift. So let me ask you something. Um, how do you feel like in terms of creating of this idea of the imperfect, right? That I'm doing it imperfectly. Tell us about it. Why it's called Be Imperfect Guide. And by the way, you guys go to, she's using the hashtag The Imperfect Green Guide. And this is like where she's tagging all the things. Later on, I'm going to post another link to an article in our blogs that I want you to check it out. And over there, underneath in the banner, you see at Janna Cabana on Instagram. Tell us a little bit about what's this deal with imperfection.
we're not here to be perfect. We aren't perfect at anything we do. We aren't perfect with relationships. We're not perfect putting our hair in a top knot. We are not perfect. So why do we aim to be perfect with this? Why are we setting a bar so high for something that we want to achieve? Like, it's not about a grade, it's just about showing up. And I know that when I set myself to a really high standard for things, I have a really rapid momentum that I start out with, and I'm great. And it's working and it's perfect, but this is a lifetime thing. So you're going to have days where it's hard. It's too hard. You're going to have days where you just forgot. You're going to have instances where other people and you're spending time with them and they don't care and it's out of your control. And I found that over the years, it used to be when those roadblocks happened, I would get really down on myself and I would just be like, oh God, this is just never going to work because we can't do it. Because if I can't do it, then nobody, this is ridiculous. This isn't, and I'm talking about like anything from, forgetting your bag when you go to the grocery store, or, every time you go to so-and-so's house, they always have bottled water and that's the way you have to drink water. And so you can be like stubborn and obstinate about it, but it's not going to get you anywhere. What will get you places is that when you have the opportunity to make choices that aren't like going to screw up your whole day and your whole life, make them in this conscious way and be totally fine. Then that's not going to be 100%, because the percent that you're doing is doing something. Like, we didn't get here 100% wrong all the time. We took a lot of steps in a direction that isn't healthy, and they have accumulated to where we're at. So that's the thing. We can take a lot of steps in a direction that is healthy. Some steps are healthy. So, it's the adage of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Okay, great. Take your steps back. Fine. So for example, and I've actually been thinking about this a lot lately. We're moving. We're moving out of our house and moving things to storage, and then it's a whole thing, but we're moving. Moving has its opportunities to go green. And I was like, yes, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, P, Q, R, whatever. I'm going to do them all. Yeah, I might have done X and Y because all these things happened in the process of our move. Family things, time constraints, and I wasn't able to use all the reused boxes that I wanted. I had to buy boxes. I couldn't order the tape that's better for the planet. I had to get the tape from U-Haul because there was a certain element of convenience. And so I was like, you can just beat yourself up about this and you can be like, well, guess you can't do the imperfect green guide now because you can't even move green. But that's not the point, because then my husband looked around. He's like, you do a ton of things green when you're moving. And there are things I didn't even think about because I've allowed this to be a part of my decisions for so long. So like, instead of like packing all our sheets in a box, this is dumb stuff, but it's little dumb stuff that makes shifts happen in your life and then in the greater life that surrounds you. I guess I without thinking, everything that was like a soft item I used to pack. So I didn't have any packing materials. I didn't I didn't have to buy any bubble stuff. I didn't have to do any of that. So there were parts that were green and there were parts that weren't green.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, the more education we have and the more people that are living like this, it's a movement. That's how movements work. When you are surrounded by people that are also trying what you're trying, changing what they believe in the ways that you do, that momentum builds and you will start to have an easier time making choices that might feel like they're against the grain of your life right now. And and I've filed it away for next time. Okay, this is what moving entails. Here's what you can have ready to go, so that you're not in a place where you're like, oh, I have to go out, and because anytime we're in a place where we have to run out and get something, it's hard to be green. It's just hard.
Yeah.
That's okay. Like, it is.
I think it also helps. I mean, I think it helps that you were both already in that direction, both you and your husband.
Yes.
So it becomes like, I think for me, the challenge is that if I now want to make a shift, and I have to now go in and have a real serious conversation with my husband to say, hey, I really want to be more conscious about this. It's like, what's the point? This is here. And then, so you have like all that other challenge coming up. I think that would be definitely a challenge for me. You know, I could see how that could become, and then in order to overcome that, to compromise or not, I just don't want an argument over like which bags we're going to be using to go away this weekend. So what suggestion do you have for that?
I would say, can I offer a suggestion? Allow the conversation to be something you can get excited about. Even if it's you getting excited about one thing in your life that you're going to do, like Alex will see that in you. And maybe it's just like, what's one thing you can be excited about? So to take that into, you know, how was any part of my moving, packing, I would really say green. I remember a lot, feels like a long time ago, on our wedding registry, I put these napkins from Anthropology that were sustainably made, like all the things, and they were beautiful. And a friend got them for me. And I mean, these freaking napkins, they're like my favorite thing. I love them. They bring me so much joy. They're these just ridiculous, like cloth napkins. Like that's what they are. And having those napkins in my life, and that was like 6 years ago, every time I used them or every time someone would come over, it was instead of a paper napkin, it was instead of paper towels, but it was just napkins. It wasn't like a whole big thing. And things grew from there. Then it became like, well, you don't really need the paper towels if you're doing so well with the napkins, and you've got dish towels. So then I have this like thing with dish towels. I think they're really cool to find vintage dish towels. And it was those napkins and those dish towels that I had that only made sense to pack my, you know, dishes with, or all kinds of other things. But all the way back when, it was excitement about the pretty napkins. Like that's what it was. It wasn't like,
that's really good suggestion.
so it's just, what do you get excited about? Do you get excited about buying a shirt from this company instead of that company? Do you get excited about, I mean, there's other things to do too that sometimes get overlooked because they seem daunting in one sector of the population, but maybe not another. And it's, you know, some people go out and protest and hold up signs for all the things I've been passionate about in my life. I've never been to a protest. Do I feel guilty about it? Sometimes. Do I understand it's just not my thing? I can do things in other ways. Yes. But you can also do things like green banking, green investing. So you can absolutely like get really, you know, someone who's really interested in the stock market. There's a whole movement of divesting from companies that aren't practicing sustainable climate changing practices. And that isn't something like switching your paper towels. There's really something for everyone. It's what do you get excited about?
So I feel like if we would have to narrow down like the core of what we could do before the end of the year, right? Because I'm gonna start this interview series. I'm going later on even today. I'm doing a lot of interviews before. I want to empower people to have tools that they need that they can use before the end of the year. So if I want to make my suggestion, if I want to make one step toward going green from now until December 31st, that I can then keep it and be sustainable throughout the new year and for years to come, your suggestion would be that start with something you really love, you're passionate about, connect with that, and then it needs to feel like good and that I need to like, and it needs to bring me joy. And then allow that to build up on its own rather than picking up a 10 list of things that then I'm going to have to. Is that a good interpretation?
Yeah, and I think that what that allows you to do when you get excited about something, passionate about something, you care less about how convenient it is. And the trouble we're in these days is human beings like things to be convenient. And I know for me personally, that is what helps me stay in check with how conscious I want to be here is does it really have to be convenient? And what does that mean? Does faster mean it's better? Does cheaper mean it's better? Does easier mean it's better? Oftentimes when I really examine that, no, it's not better. It's just faster. It's just easier. It's not cheaper. So when we can shift our connection to convenience, then this goes a whole lot less.
Mhm. I think that was your voice that shut up randomly. But yeah, no, I agree. Convenience, shifting the priorities. So having something of value rather than necessarily something convenient.
Mhm.
So yes, so I have posted a little link to go in and read your blog. Tell us, what is your project with this Imperfect Green Guide, where they can find out more. What is the things that you really, how can people step into this? Follow definitely Janna Cabana. You have the link right there. I posted a link in the comment with her blog. You can just click on the link, read her blog. It's a really, really good article. What else could people do to connect with you, and would you be willing to respond when people that watch this comment? This is going to go on my YouTube channel later on, so if they have any question, could they send you a DM on your IG, or for any suggestion or any things like that?
No, absolutely. I welcome the conversation about this. I welcome your experiences, your suggestions, everything, because I my goal for the 365 things is two things: to show, it's probably more than two things, but right now it's to show how many different things we
Mm-hmm.
can do to make this shift towards a greener lifestyle for everyone, for ourselves in our own lives, and for all the life around us. Um, Mainly because what would happen is I would say something like, "Oh, you can do this," to someone, and they'd be like, "What? I didn't know you could do that." And that was coming up so often. I was like, "Wow, things that in my head, because I've been thinking this way for so long, because I've been curious about this subject for so long, aren't top of mind for other people." Or maybe it's not
Yeah,
even that it's top of mind, but they don't like see it like playing out in their life. Like it just doesn't. It's good on paper. It's great on a like a BuzzFeed list or something, but it doesn't work in life. So I want to show people that each of these things can work in lives, and not all of them, because doing 365 new things next year, oh my god, that's insane.
yeah,
That would be way past the point of perfection. But it also allows you to have, and this is why I'm putting it on the blog, also because Instagram's being finicky in the US and we still can't have hashtags because of our election results, but here nor there. But you can definitely find me on Instagram, which I'll be posting every single day next year about doing something perfectly green, and also on the blog. But so for that expansion and that knowledge, I think it's great. You might learn something new. You might get invigorated to try something new. In researching, I'm constantly learning new things. And each time I learn a new thing, I try not to think like, oh man, I should have been doing that. Big deal. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Now you can. That's it. That's it. You don't
yeah.
look back on what you haven't done. You
No,
look
I
forward.
like that. I also like the idea of like little things, and allowing these little things to be enough. Not
Some people,
overwhelmed, not only not allowed. I think that's very encouraging for me
right.
to do.
And for some people, there'll be there'll be some things that are little, just seemingly insignificant. There will be some things that I post about that are big, huge things, like what kind of car to buy. Not because you have to go and buy a new car, but because at some point, maybe you'll consider this information when you do have to buy a new car. I'm not going to switch my car right now just because I know of a greener car out there. That's not how it works. That's still creating more trash, honestly.
Mhm.
And then also, what I am also including is just places where you can get more information and more education, because there's you know something to be said of when you know what's really going on, then you don't really walk away from it anymore.
Yeah.
It could be about forest fires. It can be about underserved communities in flood zones. It can be about policy, but the more information we have that isn't clouded by corporations and companies, the clearer we can see this, the clearer we can see the world that we live in. It's easy not to be clear right now. It's The other day I turned on the TV, just a like normal ABC network show, so bazillions of viewers. And the commercials were disappointing. Like, the commercials showed a world we just don't live in. And I'm just like,
Mm.
oh my God, this is why I have to do this. So we can see
Yeah.
and feel and know the world that we're living in and the crazy possibilities that we have. Like, if anything else, this is like the inflection point of new opportunities for people. And if any time I sort of like, I'm like, oh man, this is hard. I have an 18-month-old. There's a very hard
Yeah.
truth that every single
Yeah.
second.
Yeah. That's very inspiring. I also feel like one of my biggest motivations is for my children.
Yep.
And because I want to, he's definitely, Cameron is getting educated with that. And I want to do my part in raising him. But some of the things that for me, I have to learn myself because I didn't get to
And
learn it.
kids love this because this is their future. And that's one thing that scientists will agree on. The hard truth is the direction that we're collectively going isn't going anywhere for future generations. It's
Yeah.
ending future generations. And that is a sobering fact. But when we know the sobering facts and we look at kids or we look at our friends with kids or whatever it is, when we look beyond our own horizon, therein lies the motivation to change.
True. For sure. Well, thank you so much for giving us the inspiration to do little changes. Guys, if you're watching this before the end of the year, it's not about what big shifts you're going to take next year, it's what little shift you can take today. The main thing that I'm taking away from this is to creating a change by focusing on something I love, by focusing on the value rather than the convenience, and by really connecting with the part that I personally care about that collects and connects with all the rest. So thank you so much, Janna, for being here. You have her link to the blog. You have the link to her Instagram. She's going to go on every single day next year to post something about how to go imperfectly green because, yes, we are going to do it imperfectly just as we are. But nonetheless, as we're coming together, we can build up miraculous, huge change. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Janna, and we will see you again soon.
Thank you so much.